What's going on, YouTube? So today I have a very important video, and I think it's one that a lot of people have been asking me over and over, and that is, how do you write a book? But I think that's kind of the wrong question. The question that I like to direct people towards is, how do you start the foundation for a book? Because without a foundation, there is no book, and you don't want to start a book on a flimsy idea. But if you like content like this, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. So let's start with the first point. When you're writing a novel or book, the best thing to do is to figure out which part you know and figure out which part that you don't know. If you don't know at that point, it's okay. You don't need to figure out the whole story. You just need to figure out what you already know. And to build this foundation, you need to ask yourself 3 simple questions. And that is, number 1, what do you want to write about? And for example, if you want to say you have an ideal about a wolf eating pigs, this is just an example of how an idea can turn out to be a book at the end. Like I said, we're starting our foundation. So when somebody was writing a book and they had this ideal of a wolf and a pig, but they wanted to make a conflict how the wolf wanted to eat the pigs, but the pigs didn't want to get eaten. So the pigs went to these little bitty houses and the wolf came to each house. He huffed and he puffed and he blew the houses down. That's just a prime example of how an idea or how one short sentence can turn and develop into a book. The idea probably started as a wolf wanting to eat the farmer's pig. However, dial it back a little bit and you make it a children's book instead. And there you have the 3 Little Pigs, a children's book. One of the biggest children's books of all time that most people should know or even going to learn about even till this day. Number 2. What's the genre going to be about? It's going to be fantasy, fiction, nonfiction, sci-fi, even documentary style. You have to figure that out. And once you know about that, usually transition to the story a lot easier and a lot quicker than what it would be if you don't know the genre. So if you got this wild story where you don't know what your genre of your book is or what it's going to be, it don't quite fit the mold, that's also okay, because sometimes books and movies do that. Sometimes they fit the mold of a lot of different genres. You could also have a sci-fi thriller / romance. You could also have a crime thriller / paranormal type of book. One of the favorite books out there that sells are usually sci-fi and fantasy books, aka J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter, even Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson series. These are books that falls under the guidelines of fantasy. But what if you decide to write a nonfiction with a character with a little bit of realism, with also a little bit of fantasy and sci-fi? You can do that. You just have to make sure you're going to write on your strong point. So if the idea was this one guy who is a lawyer who's been involved in a crime ring, however, the people he's dealing with are actually zombies, you have to make sure you're writing on your best strong point. Crazy as it sounds, it could be just as real as The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, where the founding father was the actual vampire who lived for eternity, and his wife was a witch who gave birth to a wolf, and one a wolf and another a vampire. So these are just examples of how stories can actually start off weird, but as they develop and you set your foundation, it all comes together and you'll have your story. Question number 3, most importantly, how would you describe the story in a few sentences? This allows you to bring the whole picture together, almost like a synopsis almost, maybe even smaller than a synopsis. You should be able to describe your story in a few sentences or less. And additionally, this is just a small tip, but what other stories influenced your idea? And we all know that no story is going to be original right now, because everybody has written about everything across the board. There's literally a story for everything at this point, but there's always room for unique stories. For instance, think of Da Vinci Code. You have a story about Tom Hanks, or your character is similar to Tom Hanks, and he's going across these different countries trying to figure out this puzzle, this complex puzzle that he can only figure out because he has a certain ability or a certain specialty that no one else has. And that is his niche, that is his character, and that's how you're going to write your story. And the story may take a different turn in Da Vinci's Code. However, you're being inspired by Tom Hanks' character in Da Vinci's Code, which is completely fine. Go with what works. Go with what ultimately sells. Now, this comes together to build your foundation. And over time, the blocks begin to place and the construction starts to develop over time. And the construction starts to begin. And ultimately, with time, you'll have a nice little constructed story. Also, when you're writing these stories, it's okay to draw influence from some of the best things that you know about. For instance, for example, one of the best things to do is to figure out your favorite movie or your favorite book. Actually, think about your favorite book or your favorite movie and draw your influence from those books, because you want to do with what sells. If you are starting a book and you have this totally crazy, wild idea, you also have to make sure that you're going to keep it simple and you don't want it as complex. And you don't want to lose readers, because at the end of the day, you want people to come back and purchase your next book whenever it comes out. And when you're selling a book, and I mean when the book is completed, you started your foundation and you built your building on top of it. You built that fully developed building. Now you want to start querying agents. And what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to tell an agent why they should represent your book. For example, one of my favorite movies is Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey and Arrival. Those are my best two movies that just have such a great effect on me, because I am a sci-fi genre lover. Whether it's a movie or books, I enjoy it. So I wrote a book about a character similar to Matthew McConaughey, just different and unique in his own way. However, the best way for me if I'm going to be querying an agent, I'm going to tell him, hey, think Interstellar just across dimensions. So that's how I'm going to query my book to different agents, and that's how I'm going to, and as I learned, it is a learning process, because as new writers, we have to make sure that we are learning as much as we can. Learn from the people who are already proven. So go to Barnes and Nobles, look at your section or your genre that you think that your book is going to be in, and start to simply grab books, open them up, and read the first couple pages just to feel the tone of them. Most of the time, that'll help you figure out where you want to go with your writing and where you should focus your writing. And on top of that, go ahead and purchase the book. This is going to be your guide to finishing and writing your book. And it's okay, because you think about it, in academia, doing research, what are we doing most of the time? We are researching what other people are already done, only to either strengthen the hypothesis that we have or to make a good conclusion about it, about a research that we've been studying for years. The writing is different, because you have to put more emotion into those words, and you have to make sure you're saving your best adverbs and verbs when you need them. You don't want to start your book, you don't want to use so many adverbs to where it actually weakens the writing. So when you say adverbs, just be like, oh yeah, that's part of the writing. And also, I have a video here where I'm showing you how to write your book, especially if you are a new writer, whether you should write it in the past tense or present tense. So make sure you head over and check that video out, because that helps a lot, especially if you are a new writer. Even if you have written your first book and you are still in the querying stage, it's still a good video to watch, because I'm actually telling you guys exactly how you should write a book. And there is no right or wrong way. It's actually preference. It's the writer's preference. It's the author's preference. So make sure you head over and check that video out, okay? But thank you guys for watching this video. And like I said, if you like content like this, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. And until next time, I'll see you later.